They ruled empires, built legacies, changed humanity. But behind the curtain there were secrets, shadows, obsessions. This is not just history. This is a descent into the minds of brilliant men, broken by genius. I'm Tikwe Gebrekiros. Today we journey into the most complex and treacherous landscape of all, the human mind. We're drawn to the stories of great men, the titans whose names shaped our world. But what if the very source of their brilliance was also the wellspring of darkness? The same drive that conquers worlds can be indistinguishable from compulsion and fear. Join me as we peel back the layers of history to reveal the psychological turmoil beneath the legends. On the rugged island of Corsica, a boy named Napoleon di Bonaparte grew up feeling small-mocked for his accent, dismissed as an outsider. The world would know him as a military genius, but his ambition was fueled by a deep sense of inadequacy. Every victory was a fleeting balm for wounds that never healed. Psychologists now see signs of narcissistic personality disorder, grandiosity, a desperate need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. His brilliance masked a fragile ego, terrified of being seen as insignificant. Even his family were pawns, extensions of himself, their success or failure a reflection of his own worth. His obsession with legacy, the Napoleonic Code, grand monuments, was a desperate attempt to carve his name into history. The disastrous invasion of Russia wasn't just a strategic blunder, it was a refusal to admit limitation, driven by the terror of failure. Napoleon inspired men to march into the jaws of death, projecting certainty to drown out his own self-doubt. He meticulously crafted his image, heroic paintings, mythic stories, creating a reality where the small Corsican boy was vanquished by the emperor. Exile on Elba didn't break his compulsion, he immediately set about ruling, unable to simply exist. Even in defeat, he dictated memoirs, fighting to control his narrative. The grand armies, the empire, the laws all elaborate architecture for a single, fragile ego. He was a conqueror who could master a continent but never escape the shadow of his own insecurity. Napoleon's story is not just one of military prowess but of psychological drama, a study in how deep insecurities can fuel extraordinary achievement and how the relentless pursuit of validation can leave a person hollow. The giant who bestrode Europe was, in his own mind, forever standing on tiptoe, desperate to be tall enough. From battlefields to a laboratory crackling with energy, Nikola Tesla, a visionary who dreamed of powering the world. Tesla saw himself not as an inventor, but as a receiver of cosmic signals, a conviction that blurred genius and delusion. His life was ruled by obsessive rituals, a pathological fear of germs, a fixation on the number 3, and rigid routines that governed every action. These compulsions extended to his work. He visualized inventions in perfect detail, building them in his mind before ever touching a tool. But his mind was not always under control. He suffered blinding flashes, hallucinations, and visions that overwhelmed his senses. Tesla believed he received signals from Mars, convinced he was on the verge of interplanetary communication, claims dismissed as fantasy by his peers. He lived in isolation, preferring pigeons to people, and formed a deep attachment to a single white pigeon, claiming it communicated with him in its final moments. His genius was both sanctuary and prison, an eidetic memory that could not forget, leading to sensory overload and mental exhaustion. Tesla's feud with Edison was more than a clash of ideas. It was a battle between the pragmatic and the visionary, the grounded and the ethereal. Tesla's disdain for commercial success was not just principle, it was the behavior of a man for whom the purity of the idea was everything. As his fortunes waned, his obsessions deepened. He became a recluse, a ghost haunting New York's hotels, unable to manage his own life. Was he mad or simply operating on a frequency we cannot understand? In the end, Tesla's story is a haunting symphony of light and shadow. He illuminated the world, but lived in darkness, besieged by the very mind that gave us so much. In the cold heart of the Kremlin, Joseph Stalin ruled an empire built on fear. Projected as the father of nations, Stalin's mind was consumed by corrosive paranoia. Everyone was a potential threat, not just political caution but a pathological suspicion that poisoned every relationship. The Great Purge was a monument to his paranoia. Old allies arrested, show trials, executions. Anyone with independent thought was a target. Stalin rewrote history, erasing rivals from photographs and books, desperate to control reality itself. His paranoia had deep roots, a brutal childhood, outsider status, and years of conspiracy as a revolutionary. Even in power, he trusted no one. Pitting subordinates against each other, gathering secret files and turning dinners into tests of loyalty. Family was no refuge. His wife died under mysterious circumstances. His son was left to die in a German camp. The doctor's plot, a fabricated conspiracy, was the final paroxysm of his delusion, halted only by his death. His paranoia led to catastrophic decisions like ignoring warnings of Hitler's invasion, costing millions of lives. Stalin lived in a bubble of lies, surrounded by sycophants, a prisoner of the system he created. The terror he unleashed was methodical, a mind eliminating every variable, atomizing society to ensure control. In the end, Stalin's mind was the most terrifying prison of all, a place of solitary confinement, haunted by the ghosts of his victims. From power to isolation, Howard Hughes, the American dream turned nightmare. Aviator, mogul, billionaire, he conquered everything but chose a prison of his own making. Early signs, perfectionism, obsessive detail, and a growing fear of germs. His rituals became law, multi-page memos on opening a can of peaches, tissues for every surface, a world shrinking into sterile isolation. Wealth fueled his retreat. He bought hotels to create controlled environments, sealing himself in penthouse suites. Watching movies became a ritual of endless repetition, a desperate attempt to control chaos. His appearance deteriorated, unkempt, reclusive, surrounded by tissues, his body both object and enemy. His empire ran by proxy, aides following bizarre instructions, enabling his madness. Childhood fears, a plane crash, addiction, and possible brain damage all contributed to his collapse. His fortune bought silence but not peace. He was surrounded by people, yet utterly alone. Hughes's story is a cautionary tale. Wealth can buy anything except control over the mind. He soared higher than anyone, but was ultimately defeated by the microscopic enemies he imagined everywhere. In the end, he was a man who owned the world, but lost himself within it. We've journeyed through the minds of a conqueror, an inventor, a tyrant, and a billionaire, each a titan, each profoundly broken. History remembers their triumphs but often ignores their torment. The same mind that engineered victory at Austerlitz was riddled with vulnerability. The vision for wireless energy came from a man haunted by visions and rituals. Are genius and madness two sides of the same coin? The creative impulse often requires a departure from conventional reality. But when those filters dissolve, what remains? Power without limits, Napoleon, Stalin, Hughes, all wielded unchecked authority, allowing pathology to flourish. Genius without balance, Tesla's intellect untethered from reality, Napoleon's brilliance untempered by empathy. Their strengths were also their greatest weaknesses, leading to catastrophic consequences. Perhaps the line between visionary and madman is simply the outcome. Success is hailed as genius, failure as madness. Behind every great man is a mind on the edge, walking a tightrope between insight and delusion. Their stories force us to reconsider greatness. Not all geniuses are ill, not all who suffer are geniuses, but in these cases, the correlation is powerful. Their brilliance burned so intensely it consumed other parts of their humanity. Their torment does not excuse their actions, but understanding their psychology adds chilling complexity. They are not aliens, but exaggerated versions of struggles within us all: ambition versus fear, reason versus compulsion. Their minds were crucibles of talent and suffering, forging legacies both brilliant and terrifying. They changed the world, but could not escape the labyrinth of their own minds. These stories are more than history, they're case studies in the extremes of the human condition. The same currents that power revolutions can create maelstroms of torment. Greatness is often intertwined with darkness, a truth we prefer to keep buried. In their obsessions and fears, we see echoes of our own struggles magnified to a terrifying degree. Their lives challenge us to look beyond simple narratives and appreciate the immense psychological pressures behind extraordinary talent. The most epic battles are fought in the silent theater of the mind. The shadows these men cast reach all the way to the present, reminding us of the delicate balance required to navigate genius and madness.